So before I begin today's yoga sequence, I'm just going to go through my warm-up stretches. If you'd like to watch a full video on those warm-up stretches, you can click over to our profile, and it's the first video in our yoga series. After my warm-up stretches, I'm going to go from table pose, tucking my toes in, pushing up into the mat into downward facing dog. I'm going to alternate between bending my knees and keeping the other leg straight, giving a nice stretch to my hamstrings. Inhaling and exhaling, I'm going to bring my forearms to the mat, spreading my fingertips flat out on the mat, making sure my shoulders are over my elbows and the top of my head is facing the mat. This is dolphin pose, and I'm going to hold this pose for a few moments, making sure to take a few breaths here. Next, I'm going to inhale, push up, back on my palms into downward facing dog. Next, I'm going to inhale and bring my right leg up and down towards my chest, repeating this once more before I bring my foot in between my hands at the front of my mat. Making sure my right foot is flat on the mat and my right knee is bent at 90 degrees and my left heel is up and pointing backwards. This is equestrian pose. Inhaling, I'm going to bring my left leg forward to the front of my mat, letting my upper body fall forward before slowly standing up into mountain pose. Bringing my palms together in the front of my chest in prayer pose, I'm going to breathe in, twist to one side, exhale, and repeat that to the other side. I'm going to inhale, extend my arms up over my head, exhaling as I fall forward slowly, bringing my hands to the mat. I'm going to bring my right leg back and then my left leg back, going into plank pose, remembering to keep my body in a straight line. I'm going to push up from plank pose into downward facing dog once again. This time I'm going to be lifting my left leg up and down towards my chest, repeating this once more before I bring my left foot in between my hands at the front of the mat. I'm going to be making sure my foot is flat on the mat with my left knee bent at 90 degrees and my right heel is up and pointing backwards. This is equestrian pose. And once again, if this pose is too intense, you can bring your back knee down to the mat. Inhaling, I'm going to bring my right leg forward to the front of the mat, letting my upper body fall forward slowly, unfolding up into mountain pose. Bringing my palms together in front of my chest into prayer pose. Inhaling as I twist to one side and exhaling and repeating to the other side. Inhale, extend my arms up over my head, exhaling as I fall forward, slowly bringing my hands to the mat, stepping back into plank pose. Once again, holding that for a few moments before I bring my knees, chin, chest to the mat into Ashtanga Namaskara. 8 points On my salute. Exhale, I'm going to bring my stomach to the mat, extending my arms into upward facing dog. Taking a breath and going into child's pose, sitting back on my shins with my forehead and arms down on the mat. From child's pose, I'm going to tuck my toes in, pushing up into downward facing dog. Bringing my right leg up and forward to the front of the mat, making sure my right knee is at 90 degrees and my left leg is at 15 degrees. I'm going to lift my hands off the mat, squaring my hips, extending my arms up over my head into Warrior One. I'm going to hold that pose for a few breaths before I bring my right hand down onto the mat alongside the inner part of my foot, extending my left arm up and gazing up at my left hand. This pose is called extended side angle. You want to make sure your front knee is bent at 90 degrees and that your back foot is grounded. I'm going to bring both of my hands down to the mat and my left foot to the front of the mat, in a forward bend. Then I'm going to bring my right foot back, going into warrior one on my left side. Holding that pose for a few breaths, then bringing my left hand down alongside the inner part of my foot, extending my right arm up and gazing at it as I hold this pose for a few moments. Then I'm going to bring both of my hands down to the mat and my right foot forward into a forward bend, but I'm going to hold my elbows and gently rock my arms side to side. I'm going to inhale and bring my feet back into plank pose. Exhale, lowering my knees, chin, chest into an 8-point salute, then extending my arms up and pushing into upward facing dog. I'm going to inhale, fold back into child's pose. From child's pose, I'm going to tuck my toes and push up into downward facing dog, repeating this same sequence 2 more times. From child's pose, I'm going to push up into downward facing dog, bringing my right leg up and back. This time I'm bending my knee to open up my hips before I bring my leg forward to the front of my mat in between my hands, going into equestrian pose once again. Holding that pose for a few breaths before I bring my left leg forward to the front of my mat, coming into a forward bend, then sliding my hands up to my shins into flat back pose. I'm going to inhale, lift my arms up over my head, falling forward, bringing my hands down to the mat once more. I'm going to take a breath as I step back into equestrian pose with my left leg forward and my right leg back, making sure to exhale and take a few breaths here. And then I'm going to bring my left leg back so that I'm in downward facing dog, and I'm just going to repeat this to my left side. Taking a breath, I'm going to step back into plank pose, lower my knees, chin, chest to the mat in Ashtanga Namaskara, lowering my stomach to the mat before pushing up into upward facing dog, then inhaling as I lean back into child's pose. From child's pose, I'm going to tuck my toes, push up into my forearms, into dolphin pose once again. I'm going to hold this for a few moments before returning back to child's pose. For my cool down, I'm going to inhale from child's pose, go into table pose, and inhale and exhale, doing cat and cow poses, connecting my breath to my movements. Next, I'm going to sit against the wall and raise my legs so that they're up against the wall, and hold this pose for a few moments and just breathe. After holding that pose for a few moments, I'm going to lay down on the mat with the soles of my feet together in a reclined bound ankle pose. You have the option of putting pillows for comfort under your knees if you'd like to. If you are using pillows under your knees, you're going to need to remove them for this next pose. You're just going to bring your knees together on one side and twist your upper body to the opposite side. I'm going to repeat this on my other side as well. To conclude my sequence, I'm going to be laying flat on my back with my palms facing upward and just taking some breaths to relax my body. Thank you for joining me today for this week's yoga sequence.